and we'll just see what the heck goes on here. Okay, so I'm Maria Falche, and I am a local herbalist, a folk herbalist here in Southwest Michigan. I know most of you, all of you at this point. So I'm just really happy you guys showed up, and we are going to talk about some really basic strategies to help keep us healthy during the season, not just the regular, cold and flu, but with what we have going on now with this crazy COVID-19 pandemic thing that we have happening. I'm just going to chat for a little while, and then I will turn your microphones back on, and then we can chat. Okay. So one of the things that I like to talk about when addressing any kind of sickness or immunity or anything like that is I like to start off first and foremost by just addressing how amazing the human body is and how miraculous just the existence of the human body is. Just the fact that it does everything that it does is a miracle. And I don't think we give it enough credit for its self-healing properties, for its maintenance properties, for its resilience and its power. And I think that sometimes when we get away from that knowledge and that inner knowing, life can get really scary. And we can be thrown off kilter and thrown off center so easily by, the people around us, by the media, by the energies in the world, by everything that we're bombarded with on a daily basis. It can send us into, oh my God, we're all going to die spirals. But it doesn't have to be that way. Our bodies know how to handle this kind of thing. And with proper support, I think that the majority of us will weather this without a whole lot of difficulty. And that's not to say that herbs are the magic bullet and that we have a cure. I mean, there's no cure, right? It's a virus. It's just it does its thing. But how can we tap into that inner reserve within us and support our bodies in doing what it knows how to do best, which is maintain homeostasis and heal? One of the things that I also like to focus on is that supporting aspect with the herbs. Now, we're very firmly entrenched in a patriarchal allopathic society where we look at the body as something that needs to be fixed because it's broken. And we come at that from a very kind of almost violent place, a very attacking place. Like, this is bad, I need to fix it, and I'm going to throw really heroic things at it, medicine and really heroic herbs and really powerful formulas to try and kill whatever this thing is. Okay, and there are some times when that's warranted. There are some times when we want to be heroic, but for the most part, I think the body responds better when we are taking a much gentler, supportive role and not being so aggressive with it. Does that make sense? So we're looking at it in terms of, okay, well, how can I support my immune system in this? How can I help it to do its job better? And that's not a heroic thing. That is a gentle, supportive, nurturing function. And it's something that we can do every single day. It's not something that we only want to think about when there's a pandemic or when it's cold and flu season. I mean, that's when it comes into the forefront, but that's not the only time. We can be thinking about it and working with this. So looking at supporting rather than attacking, I think is really important. And then looking at what herbs we choose and what what we have around us. There are a lot of herbs, that are going to be, people are going to be talking about online. You're going to Google things and you're going to come up with all of these different, formulas and remedies. And I'm sure they're great. And I'm sure they work for people. And, at some point, we may want to incorporate those. But what I want you guys to get in the habit of doing is coming back to your place on this earth, like right here, wherever you are right now, and looking around you and noticing what's showing up for you in this moment, in this time, in this season, in your backyard, in your woods, in your meadows, in where you walk every day with your dog, or where you go and, exercise outside. What is showing up? And I'm going to tell you 9 times out of 10, that's where your solution is going to be. The earth is always going to give us what we need. And we need to start paying attention to that. And we don't always have to, import the most exotic herb from, the rainforest or from China or from wherever in order to support our bodies in doing what it does best. Sometimes it's walking right out into our backyard and looking down and saying, oh, I've got a whole yard full of plantain. And it's normally a weed I rip out and I hate, but what does this thing do? What does plantain do? And can it help me? And I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, plantain's the answer. So, it's simple, but it's there and it works. This is Luca. He's my baby. Okay. That's just kind of my opening thoughts. And just to give you kind of my personal philosophy and how I'm going to frame most of what we talk about. I love science, but I also love intuition. And I think that, having a good balance of those things is really important, because I think our bodies tell us what we need. I think the earth shows us what we need. And then kind of taking a step back then and kind of backing it up with the science and the anatomy and the physiology, it pulls it all full circle. Okay, so the first line of defense in our bodies is going to be our mucous membranes. Okay, so these are the external surfaces of our body that are technically internal, but they're not considered internal. Okay, so our nasal membranes, our airway, the lungs, our eyes, our ears, the vaginal and the rectal openings, those are all mucous membranes. Now, for this particular virus and any influenza, any cold and flu that's going around, the mucous membranes that we're going to be most concerned with is the nasal mucous membranes in the mouth, the oral mucous membranes and the nasal mucous membranes. Those are going to be the most common points of entry. Sometimes the eyes, if we're, real touchy, which, we've all found out, we're all real touchy. We love to touch our faces. We can't stop, we just can't. So that's why good hand washing is important. So the mucous membranes, they're our skin. It's epithelial, but it's got that serous membrane, which means that it's a secreting membrane. And it's going to be most healthy when it is moist. And this time of year, we still have our heat on most of the time in the house. Things get really dry. Our mucous membranes get really dry. And that's when they become vulnerable. When they are dry, anything that we inhale in or breathe in is going to have an opportunity to get to that epithelial skin layer. And once it gets to that layer, it can bond. And once it bonds with those epithelial cells, it can get in and start replicating and then proliferate within the body. So what keeps it from getting to that layer, to that epithelial layer? What keeps it from getting there? And the answer to that is mucus. Okay, so everybody has a love-hate relationship with mucus, and mostly a hate relationship, but after today, hopefully you'll have a love relationship with mucus as well, because mucus is is an amazing fluid. Okay, it's that sticky, slimy stuff that, you know, we just feel like we produce gallons of when we're sick, and we literally do produce gallons of it when we are sick. In a healthy, normal body physiology, we produce 1 to 1.5 quarts of mucus a day to line all of our mucous membranes. It helps with digestion, excretion, it helps with vaginal lubrication, it helps, you know, it helps moisten the air that we breathe so that, you know, it comes in at a good temperature. But most importantly, what it does is it traps debris. Okay, that thick gooey layer, it's going to trap that debris, and it's going to grab onto pathogens, it's going to grab onto, you know, viruses and bacteria, and it's going to encapsulate it so that we can sneeze it out, we can cough it out. The cilia, which lines the mucous membranes, are little hairs, they're going to push it out, they're going to push it out of the lungs, they're going to push it out. So how can we keep those membranes healthy? And, you know, drinking enough water is really, you know, number one. We want to drink enough water to stay hydrated, because that's going to help the body produce more mucus. But then, you know, sometimes we need more help, and that's where the herbs come in. So we're looking at herbs to support the mucous membranes are going to be our demulcent herbs. And those demulcent herbs and herbs that are going to be very, they're going to be very similar to that mucus. They're mucilaginous, they're slimy herbs. And the top two that are going to help us with that are marshmallow root or marshmallow plant, the whole thing, and slippery elm bark. Now, you know, this time of year, you know, we're not going to have our marshmallow in, you know, Southwest Michigan or in, you know, in the Northern Hemisphere. It's not growing yet. And neither is the common mallow, the Malva neglecta. That's not growing yet. So, you know, where can we look? Is slippery elm, you know, some people might have some slippery elm trees growing, but it's not extremely common. But we do have Siberian elm, and that works too. But that's a lot of work. So what else? We have aloe. Aloe is very helpful. But the things that are coming up right now, one of the things that's coming up right now that's extremely beneficial, that is a very moistening plant, is violet. And violet's coming up everywhere, and she's gorgeous. And not only is violet a mucilaginous moistening herb, but it's also one of the highest in vitamin C. Okay, so that's also going to be very supportive. It is also a vulnerary herb, so it's going to help to repair any damaged tissue, because that's another downside. You know, if you have any damage to those mucous membranes, if it's not just dry but it's cracked as well, we want to support that in healing. And so violet is wonderful for that. And in a couple of weeks, plantain is going to start coming up. I haven't seen it yet in my yard, and I've got a ton of it. So he's probably about a couple weeks away, you know, towards the end of April. And we're going to start seeing plantain come up. So do you guys know what plantain looks like? I know at least 3 of you know exactly what plantain looks like. I'm afraid to like lose you guys here, but I have a screen share thingy, and I have a picture of plantain, and it is right there. And now, well, let me come back. Go away. All right, so can you guys see the plantain? Yeah, can you see the pictures? Nod your heads, I have you on mute. Thank you. Okay, so this is a common broad plantain, and this is going to be the one that a lot of people have. But if I scroll down, you can see these skinny ones. It's also called ribwort. That is Plantago lanceolata, and that is really common too. This is the one that I have the most of in my yard. Okay, let's see. See what else I can do here. You know, I might not even be able to get out of this. Stop share. And there's our violet. Everybody knows violet. You can make tea out of violet. You can make it with fresh leaves. You can dry it and make tea with it. You can put them in your salads and just eat them fresh. You can saute the leaves and keep the flowers whole. There's so many ways that you can get violet into your life. It's just super lovely. Let's see what else. Okay, so another one that's coming up right now is chickweed. And chickweed is another wonderful moistening plant. And I picture chickweed, I do. Let's go find chickweed. All right, so chickweed's another it's a lovely plant. It's not as moistening as marshmallow or the Malva neglecta. It's not quite as moistening as those, but it's amazing because it's so delicious. Okay, you can just eat all the chickweed you want, and it's going to be moistening. It's going to promote lymph flow, which helps promote our immune system, because the immune system travels via the lymph. So if there's any lymph stuckness or stagnation, it's really going to help get that moving. It's a good vulnerary, so it's a good skin and tissue healer. So that's going to help in that regard as well. So chickweed is a lovely one. So you can, once again, you can dry it, make it into a tea or an infusion. And the infusion, you use a little bit more, like an ounce of dried plant material to a quart of water, and let it steep for 4 hours or longer. Or you can just make a regular old tea. You can eat it. I prefer to eat it, throw it in salads. You can put it on sandwiches. It's like a sprout. It's really amazing. So these are different things that we can do to support our mucous membranes. And that is really our first line of defense. And if our mucous membranes aren't functioning, then we are going to be more susceptible to the crud that comes along. All right. So I'm going to unmute you guys because I don't know when Zoom is going to cut me off, because we didn't start right on time because of the issues I was having. And they only give me 40 minutes, which is going to end in like 3 minutes. So I'm wondering if you guys have any questions on anything that we talked about so far, any of the plants or anything about the mucous membranes.
I do.
Okay. What's up, Tina?
Can you overdose on any of these?
You know, that's one of the things that I love about the herbs that I like to point out and choose for people, is that they are food. They are food-based herbs. So unless, you know, you have some weird allergy or something that, you know, isn't extremely common, all of these plants are extremely safe. They are food. And, you know, food is our medicine. So as far as I know, I can't even imagine the amount of chickweed or plantain you would have to consume to overdose or to have a detrimental effect. I can't even imagine.
And all parts of the plant, the flower, the leaves, the stems, everything?
Most of the time, unless I specify root, mostly it's the green upper parts and the flowers. Okay, so for plantain, the flower and the seed stalks, you can use them. That's where they get psyllium, you know, for a digestive stimulant and aid. But they're, you know, they're going to be kind of woody and hard and not extremely palatable. Not like violet or not like chickweed flowers or even marshmallow flowers, which are very palatable. They're very tender and soft and tasty. Most of the time, you're going to use the greens.
Okay.
I have a question. I have a ton of allergies, Maria.
And so you have a what allergy?
I have a ton of allergies.
A ton of allergies.
And so, like, my mucous membrane is probably working extra overtime. I feel like I am totally snotty. And I don't love the idea of taking all these allergy medicines. And I have essential oils that I like to, you know, on, like eucalyptus. And but I'm wondering, you know, which ones might be helpful with that.
Okay, well, One of our best allergy food herbs is going to be stinging nettles.
Okay.
Now stinging nettles isn't very moistening. It's very, it's drying, it's warming, it's astringing. So it's going to tone up, it's going to tone up those tissues, which is also helpful in maintaining moisture, because if we have leaky tissues, then we're not going to hold on to the moisture as well. And so astringents are important too, but we don't want to overdo the astringents because then it can dry us out.
Right.
But I'm doing stinging nettle infusions. So that would be more like an ounce of herb in a quart, letting it steep for 4 hours or overnight, and then straining it and drinking that is going to be very helpful because the nettles helps modulate that histamine response.
Okay.
So it kind of helps tone it down. Another herb that can help with that is Astragalus. And Astragalus can be grown here. I buy it from Mountain Rose Herbs and from Black Locust Gardens in Dexter, Michigan, in the summer when it's ready, or in the fall when it's ready, because it's a root. But Astragalus has amazing modulating properties and overall kind of protective properties. And that was one of the other things I wanted to talk about with this COVID issue are not just protecting our mucous membranes, but utilizing, a couple of different herbs that can really help build that protective chi in our body, that protective energy in our body. And Astragalus is one of those. So this is kind of a nice segue. So Astragalus can help build that resiliency within our systems so that we are not so hyper reactive to the stuff that's coming at us in our atmosphere and the stuff that we're eating. Because a lot of, allergy issues is really a kind of a hyper response to that issue. And, and trying to look at why is that happening? Why am I over responding to this? And supporting the body in kind of chilling out a little bit. And Astragalus is really good at that. And so is nettles. So
if I can't get those,
yes.
Here, if I can't get those here, I'm in Portland.
I know.
But
you can get those.
What?
I'm positive you can get those, but
yeah. I don't know if I can get that in my yard, but
Astragalus you'd probably have to plant. Nettle you might be able to find in a wild space.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I've been drinking Astragalus tea.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a question about that. I've been reading, Maria, I've been reading too much. I've been reading about the cytokine storm.
Right.
Is Astragalus put you at a higher risk for that? What is your opinion of that?
I think that the cytokine storm issue has been like completely blown out of proportion.
It has added another layer of neurotic
it happens to people. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen.
Okay.
But it's not like something that happens like commonly. Okay. It's not like, oh my God, I had a shot of elderberry syrup and my body's going to go into a cytokine storm and all of my organs are going to shut down. I'm going to die. You know, it's just not, no one has ever really seen that with elderberry or with Astragalus. I mean, it's a very extreme response of the body to a very extreme situation. And I don't think any of us really has to worry too much about that unless, you have a condition that, like an autoimmunity issue. I'm not sure which ones. I'd have to research it more, because I'm not extremely well versed in this. This is that's in the way science mode over here. And I'm still learning about the cytokine storms myself. So I don't think any of us is at great risk for it, and so, and no one that I've talked to and none of the stuff that I've read suggests that elderberry or Astragalus is going to promote that response or make it happen.
Okay.
So, Astragalus is a wonderful herb. It's protective of the lungs, which is, one of the things that we need to be aware of. and to protect. So the other herb, not really an herb, running out of time. It's like we've removed the 40-minute time limit on your group meeting.
Wow.
Thanks, Zoom. It gives me a few more minutes, a little bit of time to talk to you about reishi mushroom. So reishi is not really an herb because herbs are plants, and reishi is a fungus. But reishi mushroom is amazing, and I just want to tell you a little bit of a story about my personal experience with reishi, because that was one of the ways I learned about how powerful it is. And this is just one little piece of what reishi can do. So reishi is a mushroom, and it grows here in Michigan. It grows all over the place in the woods. You can find it, or you can cultivate it, or you can buy it. But years ago, I made a blend that I call Vitality. And it is a double extract of reishi, maitake, and turkey tail mushrooms mixed with some liver herbs, milk thistle, burdock root, and so I have this blend, and I made it. I was inspired to make it. They kind of come to me, and I put it together, and I just start taking it because that's how I test things out. I'm my own guinea pig. So I'm the lab rat. So I start taking it, and it was lovely. But I didn't, like I wasn't sure what I was looking for or anything. So I took it every single day. I took it. And then, and that was probably midsummer, I want to say. I just was taking it every day. And then we get to about, I don't know, probably January, February, and I got a head cold. Okay. And I was like, oh, great. For me in the past, head colds have always turned into bronchitis. I had, 1.5 lung pneumonia back in the 90s when I was living in Chicago. I went to my doctor at the time, and she was like, wow, it's a good thing you came in, because if you would have waited one more day, I would have had to put you in the hospital. I was very sick, and was all alone in Chicago taking care of myself. I thought I was going to die. If you've ever had pneumonia, it's scary. So my lungs were kind of scarred from that. And not to mention, my mother was a smoker her whole life, 2 packs a day, my whole entire childhood, and that is hard on the lungs. So whenever I got a head cold, it went right down into my lungs, turned into bronchitis, and then it would just linger. It would just sit there and get stagnant. And so I got that head cold, and I was like, oh shit, here we go. And 4 or 5 days later, it was done. And I was like, where are you, bronchitis? And then I realized, I'm like, well, what's different? What am I doing different? And I started doing some research, and I started reading in my research. This is where, I back up my intuition with science. And I was reading about reishi and how reishi is considered a restorative tonic for the lungs. And I was blown away by that. Because I just knew, that it was, it protected the nerve, it boosted the immune system, and it was just, that's why I was taking it, anti-cancer properties, the typical things that we think of, when we think of medicinal mushrooms, and finding out that it actually had restorative properties for the lungs was an eye-opener for me. And I basically showed myself that that's true. And so reishi right now, I think, is a really important ally. And not only because of the restorative properties for the lungs and the healing and protective properties for the lungs, but the polysaccharides in the reishi mushroom, which you get through a water extraction. The polysaccharides don't come out with alcohol. They come out with a water extraction, so a decoction, really long brewed tea. The reishi that I make is both. It's a double extraction, so it's a tincture mixed with the tea, the decoction. But the polysaccharides are, their immune system irritants, I guess is a way to put it. It just kind of lightly stimulates the immune response so that it kind of prompts it and gets it ready for action. It's just kind of like getting ready for a race where you're doing sprints and you're, you know, and you're kind of readying yourself for a response. So instead of, you know, a pathogen coming in and, you know, your body has to be like, oh, wait, the immune system was sleeping. Oh, we got to wake up. But by that time, you know, you're overrun with all this stuff stuck in your mucous membranes and there, you know, and the immune system is trying to play catch up. Taking, you know, using that reishi as an ally throughout the season helps to facilitate that immune response so that we're ready. That immune response is ready to go. It is facilitated. And so we don't have to wait for it to play catch up, because we know that if our immune system is trying to play catch up, then sometimes it's already too late. Something has gotten in. Okay, so our mucous membranes, keep them moist. You can get, you know, like I said, most of these herbs in your backyard, but, you know, if you can't find them, you know, find a local herb store. You know, Mountain Rose, I don't even think is taking orders right now. They're so backed up. But all of this stuff, a lot of this stuff should be growing for you. So that's a plus, because our herb suppliers are getting overwhelmed. So what else? Did you guys have any other questions before I look at anything else?
I still have some immunity, the mushroom tincture you were just talking about that I got from you a couple years ago.
Yeah,
How long is it good
Vitality.
for? Yeah, I kind of pushed it to the back, used it, and then it got shuffled. Is it still good?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Yeah. There is enough alcohol in there to preserve it for, you know, a number of years.
Okay,
So,
good.
yeah.
It was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I remember. One of
Yeah.
my beautiful necklaces that I traded.
We have a good system worked out.
Yes. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so okay. I'm not sure. I don't know if we want to keep going or if we want to just kind of wrap it up. What do you guys think?
I only have until 12:30 my time. But
Okay, so you have like 8 minutes.
yeah, I have a client at 1 and I have dogs I have to walk before.
Okay. So one of the, just a couple more points. One of the things, let's say you do wake up one day, you know, and you feel that sore throat that they're talking about with the COVID. And you start getting that, you know, like that kind of a dry, hacky cough, and you're just kind of uncomfortable. You know, what do you do then? What should be your first response? And I've heard a lot of different things from different people. But one of the things that I've learned is that the virus itself spends a few days in your throat before it migrates anywhere else in your body. And so if you feel like you've been exposed, or you feel like you got that sore throat and that cough, that dry cough, one of the first things you can do is kind of try to move that from your throat down into your digestive tract. And so it goes that way instead of down into your lungs. Some people are saying gargling with salt water, gargling with antiseptic or antiviral, antibacterial herbs. So gargling with, say, like calendula, sage, thyme, monarda, echinacea, you know, any of those herbs in tincture form or in tea would be beneficial as a gargle, you know, to kind of try and, that's, you know, that's kind of when we're going to bring in that heroic aspect, right? Where we're going to try and kill it, okay? Because it's in there, we want to kill it. We don't want to like be nice with it. You know, we want it to be gone. And so that's where we're going to find the more heroic herbs are going to be our friends. You know, so gargling with those, actually taking echinacea tincture is going to be beneficial. Fire cider can be very beneficial because it's very hot. It's got that vinegar. So fire cider is, the vinegar that you've infused with like, hot peppers and garlic and ginger and horseradish root, and taking a shot of fire cider is going to help. Any of those things. Doing steams, herbal steams are another great way of kind of clearing and helping to clear and also stay moist. And so ginger is great. Honey is great. Honey with ginger, really beneficial. Okay. So I even had someone say, what did they say? It was something like, I was gargling with Listerine. So that's all you can get. Gargle with Listerine. Supposedly that's going to help neutralize that. Okay. Stuff that's really high in vitamin C, like our violets, really high doses of vitamin C are going to be beneficial. And what's another thing, if you live in Southwest Michigan or even in Portland, the pines, white pine, jack pine, spruces, all really, really high in vitamin C. And so we can gather those needles, just the needles, and make a really strong tea with that and put some honey in there and drink that. That's going to really flood our bodies with that vitamin C. And vitamin C, they've really found, can pretty much neutralize almost anything. I've heard stories of people getting intravenous vitamin C and having full recovery from, an acute Lyme infection, that they were like paralyzed, and they were, after a couple, very intense vitamin C infusions, they were able to walk again. So vitamin C is miraculous. And, we're never going to get it as strong, as an, intravenous form by using plants, but it's still helpful and it's still going to be extremely beneficial. So the pine needles, the violets, the chickweed, all of those guys are really high in vitamin C. Rose hips, really high in vitamin C, nice sour taste. It's really yummy. All of those things are good. Okay. So then what happens if we can't nip it in the bud and then it makes its way down into our lungs? It turns into a damp, congested state in our lungs. And for that, we're going to want to use very warming herbs. And I'm going to go press my tea down here really quick. I made a tea earlier and I forgot. So I have you guys unmuted, and I know I have some herbal friends here. What would be your go-to herb for a damp, boggy lung grossness?
Angelica, cranesbill, goldenrod, colt's foot.
Coltsfoot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cherry bark.
Cherry bark is yummy. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Kate, you're muted.
Lobelia, if it's real deep and tickly.
Yeah, real deep and tickly.
Or the aster.
Yeah, the New England aster.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I like to add elecampane.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Elecampane is one of my go-tos for that damp, boggy grossness, because it's very warming. Mm-hmm. And it's a really good expectorant. But another one that is amazingly healing for the lungs is mullein.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's another plant that is growing right outside, showing up for all of us. And I didn't do a picture of mullein. You guys know what mullein looks like? Mm-hmm. It's those fuzzy, a lot of people call it lamb's ears, but lamb's ears is actually a different plant. But mullein it forms that rosette, starts with a rosette, and they're those big green, gray, fuzzy leaves that form that basal rosette in the first year. And then the second year, it sends up that huge huge flower stalk that almost looks like a torch, and it was actually used as a torch in the days of old. And it gets little yellow flowers on it. And mullein's amazing, and we use the leaf primarily for that, but we can use the root, but the root is kind of for different things. The leaf is primarily what we want for the lungs. So that's really amazing, and that's growing. That's coming right now. I have about 8 plants out in my front and in through the back, and she just shows up, and she's amazingly healing. Another one that can be really nice for the lungs is Linden Flower and
Oh, yeah. Linden.
Love
And
Linden.
elderberry flower, too.
Elderflower too. Elderflower especially.
Mhm.
Because elderflower has that added benefit of being a diaphoretic, which means it really helps support our fever response, which is another thing I kind of always like to harp about. People love to kill a fever, but after your mucous membranes, as your first line of defense, your second line of defense is your fever response. That is the immune system's go-to mechanism for killing the crud that is in your body to help you heal. That is what your body is trying to do. And so many times we're like trying to suppress it, taking ibuprofen, taking Tylenol, and not to mention the horrible job those two things do on our kidneys and our liver, not even taking that into consideration, thinking about why are we trying to kill our fever? This is our body working and helping and doing what it's supposed to do. And I know, it makes you feel like crap. I get that. But how can we support the body through that fever? And, that's, we can spend a whole another meeting talking about supporting fevers, because there are a whole list of herbs and for 2 different types of fevers and how to support that and how to help manage someone through that and help to ease that discomfort a little bit so that the fever can do its job. So, so those are some of the thoughts that I have on this current situation that we are experiencing, and just how to really support our bodies in doing what it does best, which is help us heal and help us, stay strong and healthy and vibrant. We're very resilient. We're never alone. And 9 times out of 10, what we need is just right there in front of us. We just need to, sometimes we need to know how to look for it, because it's not something that we're taught anymore. But there it is. Is anything else? What, Jewel?
That's why we have you.
Yeah,
Help us find it.
Well, I'm sorry for all the glitches in the beginning, and I feel like I was kind of scattered and disorganized, but I'll get better.
That was great.
You were great.
Okay.
Bravo.
Yay!
Thank you. So you guys can email me or text me or whatever, and let me know, any other things you want me to address, or if there was something that I touched on that you want more information on, maybe go deeper into, and then, maybe we can set up another time, because the more I do this, the better I'll get at it.
Yeah. Excellent.
The next phase 2 on the fevers, that would be helpful too.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to talk about fevers. Yeah, that would be great. We can talk about fevers and, other immune stuff, and the different herbs and different allies that we can look to support that, because I know it's a big thing. It's a really big thing, and it's hard to not get scared when that fever gets high, and we all kind of go into that panic mode. We got to lower that fever, but, sometimes it's really working against our best interest to do that. So. All right, I will start working on a fever class, and I'll let you guys know when, hopefully next week. I'll try and maybe set up a meeting once a week. And, the other thing that I would like to try and do, and I just want to put this out there to you guys, I'd like to try and start doing a tapping class. You guys know about EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique?
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I use it a lot myself for processing emotion and processing even physical stuff through. But I find that sometimes it's hard to do it on your own. And so I thought it might be fun if we had a group and we had like a common topic, like we're dealing like with, fear of death, fear of whatever, fear of this virus. And we can kind of collectively work with, and kind of tap it through and just have, a consistent meeting where we just work on that tapping and do it together so that we get really proficient at it. And then
That sounds good.
and sometimes too, when we work with each other, we get more prompts that takes it deeper and deeper, because sometimes you start and you're like, oh, I'm afraid of dying, but that's not actually it, and it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And then you get to the core of the issue and then you have that release. So sometimes it works better, either one-on-one or in a group setting. Sometimes, you get deeper that way. So that's something else that I was thinking about doing as just, a service, something that, a way of just helping us to be healthier, not only physically, but emotionally, because we all know that our emotions deeply affect our physical health. And if we're holding stuff and we're stuck and we're not processing that, then it's really going to start to affect us physically, which is not going to be good. So, all right, I'm going to stop blathering on right now, but it was so good seeing all you guys.
We send you love.
Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. And I'm gonna see what I can do with this recording.
Great.
Thank you for your words. I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Bye, Maria.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Be well.
Be well.
Be well.